Thank you guys for being an active, for actively participating in the poll. Before we move into the session, I just want to introduce the speaker that we have today, and we believe that whatever he talks and the things that he's going to present will be helpful for all of us. So, Mr. Alston Olive is our resource person for the day. He's an enthusiastic youth counselor. He works in schools and colleges to help young students and young folks with the issues that they're facing, and also he raises awareness about the struggles that various youngsters of today face. So he, being a former porn addict, yeah, and he handles a lot of sessions on love, sex, and porn. So I think in the last few years, he's been dealing with a lot of sessions on this topic. So I believe that his expertise and his knowledge on this topic will help most of us understand how did this come up, and why are many youngsters caught in this mess, and is it good or bad, and all that. So after he finishes his talk, we will be having a time of Q&A. I know most of you will be having a lot of questions on this topic. So please use the last code. We'll be putting up the code again in the chat box when the time for Q&A is on. You can put in your questions in the Mentimeter box anonymously, so that you don't have to feel shy about sharing your questions there, and we'll be sourcing the questions and it'll be dealt anonymously. So don't worry about what you're going to ask and all that. Because you put it up on Mentimeter, your anonymity is safe. Cool. So Mr. Olive, over to you. We're waiting to listen from you, and then after that we can move into a time of Q&A. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you, Jobin. Thank you for helping us start this event. And once again, I would like to thank everyone who's part of this session. To be very honest with you, we did not think that we would cross the number 100. We thought the number of participants will be less than that, but unfortunately, some of our people have started to message us saying the room is full. Maybe I think we should do one more for all of those who are actually missing out. So before even we start, I just would like to tell you some of the session, and some of the questions that you guys raised will be made into a video and will be shared on YouTube. So maybe for those who are unable to take part, we will share that with them. So you can use the content of this particular session with your friends as well via YouTube. This porn, this whole story of porn, the addiction to porn, it is very personal for me. I'm not here to talk to say that I'm completely immune to it, or I'm this perfect guy who has not had the share of troubles. So I have been where you are, or where some people are. I've been very much a porn addict in my life, and over the course of time, I've realized how it has impacted my personal life, how it has impacted my family, and how it has impacted the society. So that actually has made me to take up this topic and also help people who are struggling with it. So that's the whole process of me being in this session, or taking the session, which is pretty close to my heart. Even as we look into the story of porn, porn has always been there, right from the early days, in the form of art or in the form of literature. It has always been there. But the real explosion to the industry of pornography basically happened after the 1970s, where the usage of internet became pretty much prevalent. And as it has started to grow, along with internet, the addiction and the usage and the consumption of porn has basically started to grow as well. Today we are in this lockdown, and then we actually find ourselves that the usage of porn has basically increased multiple times. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the power of porn. We're going to understand how it's going to affect our mind, not only our physical body, but also our mental state. And then we will also be looking at how can I overcome. Some of you, the expectation from this particular session is can we have some tips about this, how to quit porn and masturbation, and what should I do? So we will also be covering that pretty quickly. So I just want to share what is happening around us. We need to understand what is the power of porn, and how big is this industry, who are getting affected, and how are they getting affected. If you ask me, porn is right there from the beginning. As of now, 28,000 users are watching pornography every single second. So for a second, there are 28,258 users who are online right now, and they're watching pornography, right? around $3,000 are being spent on porn every second. So you might be thinking, hey, I don't spend money from my pocket, but you need to understand, for the creation of porn, for the hosting of it and everything, for every single second, somebody at some part of the world is basically spending close to about $3,000. Now you convert that into Indian money, you'll have some mind-boggling figures. All right. You need to also see that 88% of scenes in the porn or the pornography that you watch actually contains acts of physical aggression, hitting and whacking and punching. 49% of scenes contain verbal aggression, using bad language. And if you actually think about it, that is not real life. If you actually think about it, maybe that is not how real life sex is all about. So what is it feeding into your mind? So it says that almost 88% of all the so-called films or the so-called scenes that you watch are filled with aggression or physical aggression. 90% of teens and 96% of young adults are either encouraging your friends to watch pornography, or you're either accepting to say, okay, there's nothing wrong with it, we can watch it. Some people are just basically neutral to say, okay, it's not good, it's not bad, it is okay. So over 90 to 96% of young people and teens, especially teens, they are basically giving it to a friend. If you look into my life, I was addicted to pornography, or should I say exposed to pornography by my friend. My friend in my 10th standard basically encouraged me to watch porn. So that may be true in your life as well. Around 64% of Christian men and 15% of Christian women, they say they watch porn at least once a month. So even people, they have confessed to the fact that at least once a month they do watch porn. The other thing, okay, there you go. 90% of children ages to 8 to 16, they watch porn. Okay, so the largest consumers of pornography are between the age of 12 to 17-year-old. All right. Recently, due to the lockdown, Pornhub, one of the world's biggest porn websites, reported an increase of 38% to 61%. That's a huge increase. Basically, at the lockdown, we all have free internet thanks to Jio, Dantanadan, or whatever offers you're getting. So much of data. In fact, India has the highest amount of data being given for the cost that we pay compared to many other European countries. So having data at your disposal, there's so much of usage that has increased during this lockdown time. BBC and Netflix recorded 16 million new subscribers. So you might be thinking, what does that have to do with the porn industry? Let me tell you, there's a lot of triggers that Netflix and BBC causes, which basically ends up or creates this craving inside a person to watch porn. We may also think about it to say that, okay, is it only directed towards men, or is it only men who are watching porn? The answer is no. Women are also watching porn. The reason stats say 1 in every 6 women, that is, struggles with porn addiction. So it's not only to say the addiction is completely with men. Now women are also there. So teens, both boys and girls, young people as men and women, we have all become a part of this addiction process. I've already told you this, that every single second there are more than 28,000 people who are online and watching porn. Right now, even as we're talking and discussing about this, we have so many people who are actually watching porn right now. 51% of male students and 32% of female students first viewed porn before their teenage years. So what does it mean? Is that what does it tell me is the fact that we need to address this issue, or we need to teach our students, teenage kids, that this is the pros and cons of porn, or this is the impact of pornography and masturbation in your life. Again, children get exposed to pornography as early as 12 years old. A recent survey conducted, it said 44% of male aged between 11 to 16 actually consumed pornography. So they consumed it, and they're saying that we have got the idea of sex by watching pornography. And I want to pause here for a minute as far as stats are concerned. When you try to formulate an ideology about sex, real life sex, based on what you see online, what you see on the movies, you're basically feeding your mind something which is not real. It is absolutely filled in a fantasy-filled world. something which is never going to happen, and then you're trying to build an ideology in your mind to say this is how sex is. I want you to pause and understand for a second. Just think about all the porns you watch, all these porn stars and all the porn films that we're watching. All these men and women, they have this amazing bodies, six-pack bodies, and they're also perfect in their bodies, heavily made up, so much of makeup goes in, and then this whole thing has been shot. So you need to understand that what they're making is not real life. In real life, if every guy is going to look for a perfect girl and every girl is looking for a six-pack guy, I really do not know how that will really work out. So, in fact, by watching these things, let it be Netflix or Amazon Prime or all the different web series that we are watching, the things that we see on porn films, we are getting a kind of an image into our mind to say this particular body is beautiful. Let it be a guy or a girl. If it is a girl, this is how she should look. Or if this is a guy or a man, this is how he should look. So we are making or we have been fed a lot of things into your mind to say this is the ideal body, or this is the ideal size, and this is the ideal shape, and so on and so forth. So when we actually apply that into real life, it doesn't really make sense. Because in real life, any relationship is not really based on an external feature, or should I say, your physical appearance alone. There's so much more to life than just your physical body. So we need to understand that even as young as 11 years and 12 years old, they've been fed a kind of a thought process, a kind of an ideology to say this is how sex is, and this is what you should do, and this is all that you try. So going on from there, we need to understand this addiction. What is this addiction? For most of us, we would have got exposed to porn at a very early age. Some of us, it was just out of curiosity. For some of us, our friends came and told us, and some of us, they might have said, if you don't watch it, you're not a man, you're not a woman. If you need to know more about sex, you need to see this, all of that. So it would have started on a very casual note. But as it goes on, it goes at different levels. The first thing that I would like to tell you, that you need to understand that the addiction that you have is not only physical, but is also mental. All right. So when a person is going to get addicted to pornography, what does it do to your mind, to your brain? You need to realize that at the start of this addiction, maybe it would have started as a casual thing. It would have started off, let's say, soft porn, if I can call it, rather than watching any kind of penetration or hardcore activity. You would have just watched some intimate scenes, and it would have been just a flirt around. But as it goes on, what your mind starts to do, as the process of addiction starts, is that your mind starts to program or get reprogrammed to say that it is not interested in any other activity. For an example, any other activity that you do will not be as exciting, but the activity of watching porn and masturbating, that would seem really exciting for you. So that's how it starts to build up. So your mind starts to focus on this particular activity, and it engages your body and your brain as well. So the addiction is on two levels: one on the mental side of things, and another your physical side of things. So when both of these things combine, the craving that starts inside of you is also mental and physical. So you're looking for that kind of a release every now and then. The second thing, how porn affects your mind, is that it rewires your entire mind into thinking. If you understand the whole process of sex between a husband and a wife, if I can say, it is more of the sense of touch. Your husband touches the wife, or the wife touches the husband. They look at each other, see each other, and then they get aroused. And then there is this activity of sex. So mostly it is the sense of touch. Your loved one comes and touches you, and you are aroused. But when you're watching porn, what it basically does is that it rewires your brain from, rather than the sense of touch, it becomes the sense of sight. So when your loved one touches you, you're no longer aroused, because you need a visual stimulus. You need to see something, and the sense of sight is what basically excites you. And the other problem with pornography is the fact that it is progressive by nature. Right, that's part of the addiction. So what you see today, you will not be happy to see tomorrow. Should I say, it will not be as fulfilling. So you start searching for more. Right, and then as it goes on, day by day by day by day, you might have started watching some soft porn content, and over a period of time this addiction has basically snowballed, and you're watching some hardcore content, or you're watching so many different things. So rather than from the sense of touch, it becomes the sense of type. So when this application is there in real life, sex, you're looking at the same woman and you're having sex with the same woman, that no longer excites you. So so you're looking at a person and it doesn't excite you. So the person comes and touches you, you're not excited. You need something different to be seen. I counsel a lot of young people, and I'm in touch with a lot of people who are struggling with this problem of porn. One of the persons came up and shared this heartbreaking story. That person told me that my husband openly has said that I don't get excited by looking at you. And the husband goes to say that I need to watch porn before I have sex. And then he went on to tell his wife that, you know what, I don't want to look at your face. So what he does is that he throws a towel on the face of the wife, covers the face of the wife. He watches porn and has intercourse. And the wife basically bore with all of that, and over a period of time she had a mental breakdown to go on to say that she felt as if she's a prostitute. She felt so unclean. She felt so bad to say that I'm being used like this. I want to tell you, women do not like this whole process to say you're imagining somebody and you're having the sex with someone. Women really find that really hard to accept. And then this addiction that the husband had has basically led to a divorce, where the wife no longer wants to have anything with that man, because she feels that he's seeing somebody, but he's touching me. So the whole process, we need to understand that if you look at from the vantage point of the husband, for him, his brain has been rewired. The sense of touch and the sight of the same woman doesn't excite him. He wants to see new people. He wants to see new actions, and the addiction is progressive. So as you look into it, it even leads to problem within married couples. I want to teach you something. There's something called as a trigger, routine, and reward. As we go into this process of addiction to porn, this is what happens. What is this addiction to porn? How does it happen? You might be watching Netflix, you might be watching Amazon Prime, it could be a web series, it could even be a page on Instagram. So as you look at these things, there is a sudden craving. That is the trigger point. So once this craving starts, so you migrate from Instagram or YouTube or Netflix, and then you start watching porn. As you watch porn, 99% of porn watching always ends in masturbation. So when you masturbate, you feel good, and that's the reward. If you want to understand the science behind it, this is what happens. Every time you masturbate, all right, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. So this dopamine is this feel-good factor. For example, when you eat chocolate, your brain releases dopamine. So you go on a roller coaster ride, adrenaline and dopamine are released. So this dopamine is the feel-good enzyme, I would say. That is the feel-good chemical that your brain produces. So once your body receives this dopamine chemical, you feel good about it. And that is why every time you masturbate, you have this sense of gratification. You feel really good on the inside to say, hey, I've got this. So what happens is as you every day as you keep masturbating, every day your mind starts to release dopamine into your bloodstream. So every single day, your body has now actually got used to the fact that every 24 hours, I will get dopamine. And what does that do? So every day, your mind will start telling you, hey, watch porn, because if you watch porn, you will masturbate. And if you masturbate, you will get dopamine. So this is how this craving builds up. So the trigger points, you might be watching something on Netflix, something on Instagram, and there's this trigger and your brain starts to think, okay, now if I watch porn, I'm going to masturbate and my body is going to get dopamine. So your body will basically start asking your brain to release dopamine. And in order to do that, your brain will actually guide you or focus you in search of porn so that this would basically happen. So this is what we need to understand as the process. And this is a vicious circle. So trigger, routine, and reward. After the routine, the reward is received, you're fine with it. And then it again starts from the beginning. Again, there will be some trigger. You will have the routine of watching porn and masturbating. And once you masturbate, there is this reward, that is the release of dopamine. You might be asking yourself, am I really a porn addict? We don't like to be called as a porn addict. All right. What are the few things? What are the few signs? There's a constant craving to view pornography. You're unable to stop viewing porn despite several attempts to do so. Okay. You're experiencing anger and hostility when someone asks you to stop using porn. All right. Or there is this notion. There's a decreased interest in intimacy with one's partner. I already spoke to you about that. And finally, you're sneaking around to watch porn. Basically, your mind is looking for opportunities through which you can basically watch porn. All right, what is the solution? Very quickly, I'm going to share this and I'm going to close. Okay, there are practical steps. There are mental steps, and of course, we will look at how can God help me. Three things. All right, we're going to look at what are the practical steps. What are the mental steps? How do I mentally prepare myself? And finally, we look at how can God basically help me. The first and foremost thing, if somebody comes to me and says that, Oliver, I really want to stop watching porn, the first and the foremost practical step that I will tell them as a mentor is this. I will tell them, are you willing to get rid of all material related to porn? Okay, you have to destroy all physical and online and magazines and DVDs, downloaded videos. I was actually thinking for some time that, okay, now that everything is online, people don't download. And then there are people whom I have met during this course of helping them. They basically said that they have so much of content which is downloaded. All right, so maybe DVDs and magazines were like 5-10 years back, but it is still there in an online format, and the downloaded videos are pretty much there. So the first and foremost thing that you will need to do is that you need to ask yourself this question: am I willing to destroy everything? So the first thing is that you will destroy all content, magazines, DVDs, downloaded videos. So you got to be honest to yourself to say that I need to get rid of this. The second thing that I would encourage you to do as a part of the practical steps is that you need to stop being online in private. In other words, don't try to browse around on your online things when you're alone. Today when we did the polling, more than about 30-40% of people, or I would say more than 70% of people have basically said that we are online for more than 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, and 6 hours and greater. All right, so the major chunk of people have basically said that we are online for 4 and above. So if you're going to be online for 4 hours and above, you need to be really aware that every single thing that you do online can basically be a trigger. So the best thing is that move to an area where you're not alone, or don't sneak around to use your device, your gadget, your laptop, or your computer or your phone. Number 3, I would encourage you to get a mentor. All right. This struggle against porn, and if you really want to quit pornography, you need to understand that you need an accountability partner. Someone has to be there to basically help you. You cannot say that, okay, I'm going to do this all by myself and I don't need help. I would sincerely encourage you that get help. Get somebody to basically talk to you, help you with this. And this mentor that you choose should not exploit you for the secrets that you share. That mentor should basically be a little elder to you, someone whom you look up to, all right, someone in the same sex. So if you're a guy, go to a guy. If you're a girl, go to a girl. Don't do this opposite sex counseling. That will basically end up having its own problems. So let it be of the same gender. If you're a guy, go to a guy. If you're a girl, go to a girl. And that partner should basically help you. You must give 100% access to your mentor. Your mentor should be allowed to conduct periodic checks. He or she should be allowed to see what you do on your phone, what are the sites that you view. Basically, accountability helps a lot in your process of quitting pornography. The fourth thing that I would suggest is that you start to install accountability softwares in your phone and laptop and computer. For an example, there are softwares like Covenant Eyes, X3 Watch, Net Nanny. What they do is, for example, Covenant Eyes costs around 1,300 rupees per month. So if you think that you have a serious problem with addiction to porn and masturbation, then you should be willing to invest financially in your recovery. right? It's like taking a medicine or buying a vaccine or buying an injection or buying a medicine. So per month, if you're able to spend 1,300 rupees on your recovery, then I would strongly recommend for you to use this software called Covenant Eyes. What does Covenant Eyes do? This software basically gives you a firewall on your phone, on your laptop, on your computer. It doesn't allow you to access pornographic websites. So any firewall can be basically taken down, and you guys are very tech savvy. You will always find a backdoor. The other thing that the software does is that she also sends out an email to your mentor every time you break the firewall, every time you go and watch something on porn. Basically, your online activity is tracked, and that data is shared with your mentor. So your mentor will absolutely know that at what time you're watching porn, what are the sites you have accessed it. So he will be able to help you with the whole thing. So he will basically understand through the week or through the month how many times you've accessed the porn websites, on what time of the day you watched the porn, and that will basically help him to formulate a recovery plan for you. So the role of a mentor is extremely important. All right. And number 4 is basically join a support group. So if your mentor is basically connected with people, he should be having a small support group. For example, I counsel so many different young people. We can form a support group where they can talk to each other and encourage each other. So talking to each other definitely helps you. All right. So the first point that I said is destroy all the content that you have. Second point that I went to say, one second, guys. Okay, I've just stopped the presentation. There is no more presentation. That was the last slide that I had. I've just got some messages on to the host. So the second thing that I wanted to share is stop being online when you're alone. Third thing that I said is get a mentor. And the fourth thing that I shared was to install a filtering and accountability software. And the fifth one is basically to join a support group. So your mentor will be able to identify with the data what makes you fall, and you can also identify them and you can address them. All right. So anything that leads you to porn, it could be Netflix, Instagram, it could be even a chat with a friend for whom you are having romantic feelings. All of that can be addressed. So set rules, set boundaries, which is very, very important. And also very, very important, never underestimate what you're watching online or on TV. When I was a pornographic addict, when I decided to quit porn and masturbation, one of the first things that I did was I started to change the type of things that I watched online, because I might be watching a movie and in that movie there will be an intimate scene. So immediately I will have a trigger, and that led me to watch porn. So right now, I don't need to tell you the amount of content that is available on Netflix and Amazon Prime. So much of content available at a click of a button. So if you are going to get tempted, then once the trigger starts, once it's triggered, then there's no stopping. You will go into your routine and there will be a reward, which is dopamine. So if you want to stop that process, you cannot do anything about routine. You cannot do anything about reward. You can only do something about the trigger. So pay attention to your triggers and ensure that the trigger does not get triggered. So pay attention to that area. How can I mentally prepare myself? What should I do mentally? Okay, first of all, it is basically an attitude adjustment. Most young people or most people who normally try to get out of porn, there is always a relapse. They fall down, they fail in the recovery. Some people have tried twice or thrice and they've failed in it. So there's always this attitude of failure to say, okay, I've tried it 2-3 times and it's not going to work. But I'm telling you, you need to make an attitude adjustment to tell that, yes, you can break this addiction. This addiction did not happen overnight. You did not become a pornographic addict overnight. It happened over a period of time, slowly. Okay, as slowly as you went in deep, you need to slowly come back. So it will take time. So you need to make an attitude adjustment to say that, yes, I can do this. Even if you fall so many times, just pick up and start running. Okay. One of the major areas during recovery, okay, you need to be aware of your relapse. All right. So you need to tell yourself, yes, relapse will happen. Why? Because like I told you, every time you masturbate, there is this release of dopamine. So your body has got used to the dosage of dopamine over a period of time. So suddenly if you tell your body, hey, no more dopamine, it is not going to listen. All right. It is like smoking or drinking. Every day you're smoking, every day you're drinking. Your body has got used to the alcohol levels receiving the alcohol levels every single day. One fine day you say, okay, I want drink, it doesn't work. Your body will start demanding it, and that's why your hand starts to shake. You feel this craving. You're more aggressive. You're cranky, and all of that are reactions. They are withdrawal symptoms. So you need to tell yourself relapse will happen. It is definitely is going to happen, but you need to be prepared for that relapse. When that relapse happens, identify what triggered that relapse and isolate that trigger. And when this relapse happens, pick yourself up and start running. Do not quit, because quitters will never win and winners will never quit. It's not about trying once or twice. It is about trying as long as it is required to quit pornography. In my personal life, it nearly took me 3.5 years to basically quit pornography, to build this self-control inside of me, both mentally and physically, to say that I will not watch this, I will not go to this. And one of the things that I did as a part of my mental adjustment is that you should start to dedicate your recovery to a loved one. For example, it could be a mother, it could be your father, it could be your sister, it could be your wife. I don't know. Find out your loved one. Dedicate your recovery to your loved one. So what you can do is that you will always have a corner or a place in your house or in your room where you sit and watch porn and masturbate. So put up a photo of a loved one in that place. Okay. So every time you go to that place to masturbate, you look at your loved one, you remember that you are doing this for that particular person. For example, in my life, if it is my wife, I will put a photo of my wife in that place where I sit and masturbate, where I will sit and watch porn. So every time I have this phone in my hand, I'm going to watch something, I see my wife, I tell myself, hey, this is not right. I'm doing this for her because I love her. I will not watch porn. So dedicate your recovery to a loved one. That is very, very important. So, and the fourth and the final thing that I would like to say as a part of your mental makeup, keep yourself busy. They say that an idle mind is definitely a devil's workshop. If you actually notice, more than 80% of porn users have come up and said that we use porn because we are lonely or because we are alone. So the whole point is, don't be idle. Have something to do. Keep yourself occupied. Join a sports team. Pick up a music instrument. Go for a walk. Especially the times when you get tempted. Right? If it's in the evening, at that particular time, set up an activity. All right. So there is so much to do. I would really encourage some form of a physical activity. For me, I'm not a big fan of exercising and going out or being a part of the sports team. So what did I do? I started to cook. I started to learn how to cook and bake. So cooking and baking are a great release. In fact, it releases dopamine as well. So there was a substitute for me to say, basically, rather than going to porn or masturbation to receive that dopamine, I went into cooking and baking, which released the same amount of dopamine because I was excited about it. So find something which is good and which excites you, and then you can substitute it with that. And finally, I would like to say, and then I will go in for the questions. How does God look at me? Sometimes we all think that, okay, I feel so bad. I feel I'm so ugly. I'm so dirty because I'm watching all this. But I want to tell you that our God is a God who loves you. He loves you just the way you are. All right. And he does not, the Bible basically tells me that he loves the sinner and hates the sin. So if you basically ask me, hey, God wants you to get clean. God wants you to quit this habit of watching pornography and masturbation, because God has already provided something in your life to say, sex is a very beautiful thing that God has given to us to be enjoyed between a husband and a wife. And then we need to understand that we should not take that out and spoil the whole thing. So watching pornography is, in a way, cheating on your partner. And I want to tell you that even if you've done that, God is willing to accept you as you are, and God is willing to help you. Even as we look to God in prayer and ask him for support, God will give us the mental strength to quit pornography. So this is in a nutshell to say what pornography is all about and how does it impact us, and what are the things that you can do to improve yourself. So if you want to know more, you can basically contact us, and I would be happy to be open for questions. And I'm willing to take questions. Over to you, Chobin.